Let's be real, you suck in PvP, and don't even know why. I give you 7 reasons why you suck in PvP and tell you how you can get better. Caves are scary, element is hard to get, and level 68 is enough to build your first turret. If you don't build heavies, then you don't need so much ammunition to fill them up. Wrong. Not progressing can become a real problem. If you get raided because you're still defending with auto turrets placed on your metal cube, then you honestly deserve it. It is essential to get to level 100 to build heavies. Only build a base before you have heavies, if you want to start from scratch the next morning. So, how do we get past this problem? The quicker you get it done, the better. Tame some dinos that can go into caves, since that is for sure the fastest way to gain experience after you did your node run. And then get some good clearing going. If you're still scared of caves, do it step by step. And don't go in too deep. In most caves, enemies spawn in small clusters and you can kill them cluster by cluster, then you don't have to worry about getting killed. And when you're down at the artifacts and the loot crates, you can also take them with you and keep them hidden somewhere so that you can take down the bosses later. At some point, caves will get less scary. But until then, you're at least not constantly reminded that you can't craft because you haven't learned the recipes. So, here you are. You spotted an enemy, followed him around, pulled out your sniper rifle, it is loaded, and you're ready. Suddenly, the enemy spots you, you turn around and run away, not knowing that the enemy is low on food, depleted his ammunition, just finished his drop hunt, and is loaded with valuable blueprints. The opponent is relieved. He wouldn't have been able to fight any further and wanted to run away himself. You missed out on a lot of loot because you were too cowardly to take up the fight. And the worst thing is, you don't even know it. You were too worried about keeping your stuff to think and see that you could have gotten lots of loot. At this point, you have sucked. If this enemy had run into you and the situation had been reversed, the enemy would have taken everything you had in your inventory and you would have raged and switched off your PC in the blink of an eye. You have to understand that. When you play PvP, nobody will spare you, and you shouldn't show any consideration either. Does that mean you should shoot at everything moving? Hell no, but try to assess what situation your opponent is in. Is he sitting on an ankyllo and farming metal? Then there's probably not much to be gained at the moment. Is this the second time in the last 10 minutes that your opponent has snatched the red drop under your nose? There might be something to get, and maybe you can intercept him at the next drop. I have to admit, that was me on my first few PvP servers. I shot at everyone without even thinking for a second about who he is and what it could mean for me. At one point, I was either shooting at a member of an alpha tribe or at Beach Bob where I couldn't collect any loot. The first 1 or 2 times are fine, but you quickly get to the point where other tribes are annoyed and then they start shooting at you. Shooting at anything that moves, whether it's a player farming metal or taming an Agentavis, will sooner or later make you a target yourself and causes enemies to start looking for you and your base, taking every opportunity to kill you or wipe you from the server. So, what can you do now? Stop randomly shooting other players, watch the chat and try to find out which players belong to which tribe and how the tribes relate to each other. The only thing you can do to avoid trouble is to fly under the radar of other tribes, especially in the beginning. If other players don't know you're there, they won't look for you, and that increases your chance of survival enormously, especially at the beginning. Oh wow, you did it! You survived your first day on the ARK, that's great. You built a stone cube somewhere hidden in the forest. Yeah, we all start there. A short distance away you got a small dino pen, and you have some plant species X around your base, that's great. Now it is day 3, and you did not upgrade that plants to real turrets? Huh? Yesterday you thought about upgrading your plants, but you did not do it because you don't like to farm electronics and thought 1 more day would be fine. Yeah, now you're mad because someone snuck past your plants, blew your cube, killed your dinos and stole your metal. Your dinos are dead, your forges are empty, and you have a huge hole in your base. I'm sorry to tell you, but you sucked hard on that one. If you would have upgraded at least some of your plants to simple auto turrets, your base probably would still stand. Plant species X are a great way to defend your base in the early game, and from time to time you can sprinkle some between your heavies, but they cannot block rockets and do not deal as much damage as other turrets, and they can be easily destroyed by most of the dinos. The best way to address this problem is to add turrets to your defense as fast as possible. The higher the rates on the server are, the faster you need real turrets. There are many simple guides that show you how to farm electronics for your first few turrets without going into the deep ocean. You and your mate have now joined the server that everyone is talking about. Good farm rates, lots of active players. You've survived the first few days. You're now doing your first big raid. You two build a fob and run the first stego into the turrets. Seconds later, you see 5 people log in and start fighting you. In the end, you're dead, your fob is raided and all your teams are gone. The server you are playing on allows tribes up to 10 people. You're now facing a superior force. You thought you could survive a small tribe on a large tribe server. You sucked on that one. You wanted to be the underdog and everyone loves the underdog, but in ARK, the underdog gets destroyed and wiped off the server. If you had played on a server that matched your tribe size, maybe you would still be alive and your base would still be standing. There are many great communities that offer servers. Before you join a server, check how many people can join a tribe. If your tribe is smaller than the maximum possible, look for a server with smaller tribes. I understand, you're new, you don't know the game, you don't know the map, and you don't know what to do. Your first trip was to YouTube to find good spots for your base. What sounds like a good idea in theory will cost you dearly. The first spot you chose was already occupied, and the second one you built on was wiped out within a few days. The problem here was you. You're not the only one who found the video on YouTube. Base spots that are generally well known should only be built by tribes that know how to defend them efficiently. For you as beginner, it is best to build somewhere hidden so that nobody can find you. A metal cube with 4 turrets on the roof is safer than if you build in a well-known spot and you don't know what you're doing, because if they can't find you, they can't raid you. You've been chatting to the same 3 people every evening. They're nice and you have a good conversation in the global chat. You even traded with each other, and for that you told them where your base is. Unfortunately, you did it in global chat. This morning your base had a huge hole in the wall and all your stuff was gone. And this is your fault. Global chat is a good way to communicate with other players, but it's also kinda global. If you write something, the whole server can read it. You may have 1 or 2 allies you trust, but the enemy is listening, or reading in that case. And the enemy will use everything you reveal. If you quickly write the coordinates of that 150 giga in the global chat, or arrange a meeting point, you can be sure that an opponent will be waiting for you to steal your stuff. Don't get me wrong, ARK is a very social game. On the right servers, players help each other. Even in PvP, they forge alliances and become friends. But in the same way, there are always players whose main task is to rob you of your loot whenever possible. Okay, so my tip for that. Just write a little less in global chat. Have fun, but only share the important information in a private chat. Then your loot will stay yours for longer. You bought a new graphics card, but the game still runs poorly. While you can barely manage 30 FPS, everyone else seems to have no problems. You don't leave your base at night because it's far too dangerous, and when you enter caves, you can see your hand in front of your eyes. Everyone else is farming at night, but you have to sit in your base and wait for the sun to rise. I understand what you mean, but if you don't use commands, then you suck. Not because you're a bad player. The problem is that everyone else is using commands and gaining an advantage in PvP. Whether it's more FPS or a better view of enemies, for one or another, almost all players use commands to improve their gaming experience. I understand if you say you don't want to use commands because it feels like cheating, and some commands honestly heavily manipulate the game. Luckily, Wildcard removes the bad comments quite quickly when they're found. However, you need to start using comments. Not only do they improve your experience, they also give you more FPS and advantages in PvP. Watch my video about the 10 most important comments that every PvP player should know.